Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an analysis of the Hindu newspaper from UPSC perspective. Today we will discuss the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 26 February 2020. And the articles that we will discuss today are displayed on your screen. So let us start our discussion. Now this article on page number 10 talks about the rights and the duties of the citizens in general. And the author has written this article in the context of a recent statement by the Chief Justice of India at the International Judicial Conference 2020. And there, the Chief Justice of India has said that real rights are the result of performance of duties. And he based this statement upon the Mahatma Gandhi's book, Hind Swaraj. So in this context, the author analyzes that citizens are already bound by a web of duties. So in this context, the author analyzes that citizens are already bound by a web of duties in their normal day-to-day life. However, the logic of providing the fundamental rights and the other rights in the constitution was based on the colonial history of India and also on the historical hierarchical injustice that existed in our society. For example, there existed caste-based discrimination, there existed gender-based discrimination, etc. And accordingly, the constitution has provided certain rights to its citizens. So in this context, the author has said that the real problem arises when the ideas of rights and duties are merged together. So in this context, the author says that the real sense of duties or the meaning of duties can only be understood if they are seen in the context of providing the rights under the Indian Constitution. And if this is not done, the pretext of duties can be misused by those in power. And ultimately, he concludes by saying that the real duties are the result of fulfillment of the rights which have been provided under the Constitution of India. So let us look at these arguments one by one. That is, how are the citizens bound by a web of duties normally? And again, what was the main logic of providing rights and fundamental rights in the Indian Constitution? And let us look at the logic which has been provided by the author to justify his arguments. Now, to understand about the basics of the rights and the duties, you can go through the NCERT of class 11, that is political theory. And in this, you should go through the chapter on the rights which has been provided in this book, which will help you in understanding the basic context and the reason for which rights are provided in the democratic societies. Now, regarding the duties, the author says that citizens are already bound by duties in their everyday life. And these duties are owed by the citizens both to the states and to the other individuals. And these are manifested in the legal duty to pay our taxes, also to refrain from committing violence against our fellow citizens, and also to follow other laws that are enacted by the parliament. Now, the logic that has been forwarded for these duties is that peaceful coexistence requires a degree of self-sacrifice by the citizens. And if it is found that the actions of the citizens are standing against this peaceful coexistence principle, then various sanctions are provided by the laws of the parliament. For example, if a person fails to pay taxes, there are penalties which are imposed or other penal actions which are taken under the laws of income tax. Again, under the laws which are made by the parliament, various sanctions and penal provisions have been provided. And all these are aimed at providing for peaceful coexistence in the society. So normally, the citizens are bound by these duties towards the state and towards the fellow citizens. However, regarding the importance of the rights, the author says that two important concerns were present before the Constituent Assembly before formulation of the Indian Constitution. Now, the first role of the Fundamental Rights chapter which has been incorporated in the Indian Constitution was to stand as a bulwark against dehumanization. And this is because Indians under the colonial regime were treated as subjects and were not treated as equal citizens. So the basic principle of providing the fundamental rights to every citizen was that every human being had a claim to basic dignity and equality. And no state can take away this basic dignity and equality which is present to every human being that lives in a state. And for this, one does not have to successfully perform any duty or meet any threshold of worthiness. And these fundamental rights which have been provided in the Indian Constitution simply are provided to entertain and ensure the dignity of individual and equality in the society. And the second role of the fundamental rights was to stand against the inherent hierarchical social structure that exists in India. And due to this hierarchy, various sections of the society had been facing discrimination. And accordingly, the fundamental rights provide for guarantees against forced labor, it provides guarantees against untouchability, and as such, the fundamental rights were meant to play an equalizing and democratizing role throughout the society and stand against the discriminatory hierarchical structure that existed in the society. So accordingly, the chapter of fundamental rights was added into the Indian Constitution for these two primary reasons. That is, it stood as a bulwark against dehumanization and it aimed at ensuring the dignity of individual. And also, it provided for social rights against the hierarchical discrimination that existed in the society in the way of caste and gender discrimination. And these twin principles of anti-dehumanization and anti-hierarchy reveal the transformative purpose of fundamental rights chapter that has been provided in the Constitution of India. Further, the provision of fundamental rights is also a recognition that the true democracy cannot exist without ensuring that a basic level of dignity and equality is provided to its individuals. And this dignity and equality of the individuals has to be protected both from the state as well as from the social majorities. So basically, the fundamental rights chapter aims at securing the rights and the dignity of the citizens against the state as well as social majorities which have been created because of the hierarchical social structure. And it is only through these guarantees which are provided by the fundamental rights an individual can convert from the status of subject to that of a citizen. So in this background, the author says that the real problem arises when the ideas of rights and duties are merged, as stated by the Chief Justice of India at the International Judicial Conference, where he has said that the real rights are a result of performance of duties. However, the issue with such kind of understanding of the relationship between the rights and the duties is that such stress on duties can end up entrenching the existing power structures by placing the burden of duties upon those that are already vulnerable and marginalized. So this mainly means that this call for duties or performance of duties can be misused by those who are already in the power structures. So in this context, the statement of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in the Constituent Assembly stands important. That is, the fundamental unit of the Constitution remains the individual. And accordingly, if the position of the individual and the Constitution's commitment to combating the inherent discriminatory hierarchy is kept in mind, then the language of duties can be understood in its proper context. And what this means is that it is only when the fundamental rights are properly implemented, it can guarantee the full sum of humanity, dignity, equality, and freedom to the individuals in the society. And only if the dignity, equality, and freedom of the citizens are ensured first, the state has the right to ask for the performance of duties by its citizens. And thus it is argued that the fundamental rights chapter which has been included in the Indian Constitution has primacy over the duties which are to be performed by the citizens. And this is mainly because only when these fundamental rights are implemented and ensured, the citizens can be expected to perform their duties. So it is not the other way around that the real rights are a result of performance of duties. However, the real duties are the result of fulfillment of the rights which are provided under the Indian Constitution. Now, after going through this discussion, you can try and answer this question from your mains examination point of view. And you will find that in the ethics paper, that is the general studies paper 4, you will find such questions where you will have to take a stand. So accordingly, you can use such kinds of arguments which are provided in articles like this. With this, let's take up the next news article. Now, this article on page number 15 talks that the recent visit of the President of the United States of America outlines that it is a part of the United States of America's strategy to isolate China. And this is mainly because of the rift that is going on between US and China, especially in terms of the trade war that is happening between the US and China currently. Now, in the yesterday's DNS, that is the DNS of 25th February 2020, various aspects of this strategy of the United States of America, where it is seen as moving away from China towards India, and it is being seen as a measure to isolate China, have been discussed in detail by Navid sir. And various initiatives of the United States of America in this regard have also been discussed in detail. However, in this article, we will look at one important initiative of the United States of America that is being seen as a counter to the Belt Road Initiative of China, and that is known as the Blue Dot Network. So let us look at some of the aspects of this Blue Dot Network which can be important for us from the preliminary examination point of view. So what is this Blue Dot Network? So it is being led by the United States' International Development Finance Corporation. Now, various points that we are discussing regarding this Blue Dot Network can be important for us from the preliminary examination point of view. And this Blue Dot Network was jointly launched by the US, Japan and Australia. And the participating agencies are the US's International Development Finance Corporation, the Japanese Bank for International Cooperation and the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade of the Australia. And this initiative or the Blue Dot Network was launched on the sidelines of the 35th ASEAN Summit. So what this Blue Dot Network aims at? So it is meant to be a multi-stakeholder initiative that aims to bring the governments, the private sector and the civil society together to promote high quality, trusted standards for global infrastructure development. Again, as a part of this initiative, the infrastructure projects will be vetted and approved by this network. And this network will certify the projects based on the standards which meet the global infrastructure principles. So the projects that are approved will get a blue dot and thereby it will set universal standards of excellence and which will attract private capital to projects in developing and emerging economies. So basically their efforts are aimed at developing and emerging economies and they are also aimed at certifying the infrastructure projects with a blue dot, which is aimed at setting the universal standards of excellence. Now, this initiative of the United States of America along with Japan and Australia is being seen as countering the China's Belt Road Initiative. So it is important for us to know the differences between the Belt Road Initiative and the Blue Dot Network. Now, under its Belt Road Initiative, the Chinese government is involved in direct financing. Also, it is involved in giving the countries immediate short-term reliefs. However, in this Blue Dot Network, there is no direct financing initiative. So this is primarily a very important difference between the Belt Road Initiative, that is, under Belt Road Initiative, direct financing is provided. However, under this Blue Dot Network, no direct financing is provided. And another important aspect from the preliminary examination point of view is India and the Blue Dot Network. So as we already know that India is not a part of the Belt Road Initiative, nor it is a part of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. And accordingly, India has not yet signed or become a member of this Blue Dot Network. Further, it is also not a part of Indo-Pacific Business Forum, which has been created by US, Japan and Australia. So these are few important points which are related to this Blue Dot Network, which can be important for us from the preliminary examination point of view. And we will take up certain practice questions based on this Blue Dot Network for our preliminary examination. Now, this article on page number 10 talks about the usage of none of the above options in the electoral system in India. And it has been used widespreadly in the various state legislative assembly elections and also in the Lok Sabha elections. So in this context, let us look at various aspects of the none of the above option which is used in the various assembly elections across India. And this can be important for us from the general studies paper 2 point of view in the mains examination. Now, the none of the above option or the NOTA option was included in the Indian election system by the Election Commission of India after the Supreme Court's judgment in the People's Union for Civil Liberties versus Union of India case in 2013. However, the none of the above option does not provide for right to reject. So now let us understand why was the NOTA introduced in the first place. So the Supreme Court contended that it gives the voters the option not to vote for any candidates in the election. So it can be said to be a negative vote on the candidates which have been proposed to be elected. Secondly, the significant votes for NOTA signify that the voters do not prefer any of the candidates fielded by various political parties. So to provide the freedom to the electors for rejecting all the candidates which are fielded by the political parties, the Supreme Court in 2013 allowed for the introduction of NOTA in the elections. The Supreme Court further contended that it would give the people the option to reject, which will make political parties field better candidates in elections. Now let us look at the problems associated with the NOTA. Now, some of the problems associated with the NOTA is that it does not amount to right to rejection in the elections, which means that in case NOTA secures the highest number of votes, it does not lead to the rejection of other candidates which have been fielded by the political parties. And under the first past the post system, as we have learned that the candidate who secures the highest number of votes is declared as the winner. Now, in case NOTA secures the highest number of votes, even then the person who has secured the next highest number of votes is declared as the winner. So let us take up an example. For example, if A candidate secures 30 votes, B secures 20 votes, and the NOTA option secures 50 votes, in such a scenario, the candidate A will be declared as the winner because the NOTA does not signify any political candidate, and also it has not been provided with the powers of right to rejection. So that is why, due to the flaws of the first past the post system, NOTA does not amount to right to rejection. And due to this, it has just become a protest vote only, and it does not have any electoral significance as of now. Now, the implementation of none of the above option in the elections has been implemented by the State Election Commission of Haryana in the local polls. And according to the notification by the State Election Commission of Haryana, NOTA shall be treated as a fictional electoral candidate. So if in any election, all the candidates individually receive lesser votes than the fictional electoral candidate, then none of the contesting candidates will be declared as elected and a re-election shall be held for the seat. So as we have learned in the example, if A and B candidates secure 30 and 20 votes respectively, while the none of the above option secures 50 votes, then re-elections will be held in such a scenario. Further, all the candidates who have secured less votes than the NOTA will not be eligible to refile the nomination or contest for the re-election. However, in case of re-election, if the NOTA again gets the highest votes, then further election will not be conducted and the contesting candidate with the highest votes shall be declared as elected. So for example, if the re-election is held and the candidates C and D have been fielded by the political parties, and in this vote also, the candidate C secures 20 votes, D secures 30 votes, and NOTA again secures the same number, that is 50 votes, the candidate D will be declared as the winner. So this is one of the experiments that have been done in the local elections by the State Election Commission of Haryana. Now this article on page number 13 is related to the recently concluded defense deal between India and the United States of America on the recent visit of the President of US. Now in this deal, India will be procuring MH-6OR Seahawk helicopters and the Apache helicopters. So these can be asked in your preliminary examination, as in the year 2016 a question was asked related to INS Astradharini. So which one of the following is the best description of INS Astradharini that was in the news recently? And the correct answer in that case was C, that is, it is a torpedo launch and recovery vehicle. So accordingly, you should learn about basic aspects of this Seahawk helicopters as well as the Apache helicopters. So for example, as you can read here, that the MH-6OR is the mainstay of US Navy's anti-submarine warfare capability. Further, they are capable of carrying out anti-ship, anti-submarine electronic warfare, net-centric over-the-horizon offensive and defensive roles. So these are the main purpose of using these helicopters. Then regarding the Apache, it is the most advanced multi-role heavy attack helicopter in the world. Now in this context, let us look at some of the important points related to the preliminary examination related to the Seahawk helicopter and the Apache helicopter. However, the most important aspect that should be looked is the main purpose or the usability of these helicopters. So regarding the Apache helicopters, you should note that they have been acquired from the United States of America under the foreign military assistance. Another important point regarding Apache is that it is a multi-role combat helicopter, and this can be a particularly important aspect for us from the preliminary examination point of view. So one thing you need to note is that it has been acquired from the United States of America under the foreign military assistance, and second is that it is a multi-role combat helicopter. Further, another important point is that it is equipped with Hellfire missile, that is air to surface anti-tank missile. And these are the missiles which are being used under the Predator drones to target the killings of high profile militants in the Middle East and as well as in the Afghanistan. Further, regarding the Seahawk, you should note that they have also been acquired from the USA under the foreign military assistance. Now regarding this, it is a naval multi-role helicopter. So this helicopter is basically a naval helicopter, and as we have learned in the previous slide that it is used in the submarine warfare. Further, it is capable of being operated from various types of warships which include frigates, destroyers, cruisers and aircraft carriers. And also it is equipped with state-of-the-art sonar suite which provides navigation, situational awareness and target data as well as weapon guidance capabilities. So in this you should note about the key areas where these Apache and the Seahawk helicopters are usable, and also they have been acquired from the United States of America under the foreign military assistance. So these are few important points related to the Apache and the Seahawk helicopters, and with this let's take up the next news article. Now after today's discussion, let us take up these practice questions, and the answer for these questions will be displayed after 5 seconds. So the first question reads, which of the following statements is or are correct about the Blue Dot network? First is that it was launched by the US, Japan and Australia on the sidelines of ASEAN Summit, which is a correct statement. Second is that it finances infrastructure projects in developing economies. So as we have learned that although it is aimed at countering the Belt Road Initiative, it differs from the Belt Road Initiative in the sense that it does not involve itself into direct financing of infrastructure projects, and hence this second statement given here is incorrect. The third statement given here is that India is a member of Blue Dot network, and which is also an incorrect statement. So the correct answer that comes out is A, that is 1 only. Again, if you look at the second question, it reads that the Seahawk helicopter is a naval multi-role helicopter, which is a correct statement as we have learned today. Second is that the Apache helicopter is equipped with Hellfire missile, which is also a correct statement. The third statement is that both the Apache and the Seahawk helicopters have been acquired by India from Russia, which is an incorrect statement because they have been acquired from United States of America. So the correct answer that comes out is B, that is 1 and 2 only. So with this we conclude today's discussion. Now let's take up the question for the day.